The best way to get to know a city, as it's eventually the best way to know oneself, is first to get lost in it. Set out without maps. Venture down those dark alleys. Tread where angels dread your treading. Making my way along the Seine in the bright April sunshine, singing, "I love Paris in the springtime, I love Paris in the fall." I'm emerging onto the Boulevard Saint-Michel, where my singing stops upon finding myself at a fountain around which all kinds of riffraff are lounging, decidedly dodgy-looking characters, thieves, tramps, winos, ready to pounce. Uh-oh, I've caught the attention of one of them. He's hailing me. I'll wave to him, show him that I mean well. Oh golly, this has really animated him. He's signalling me over. I'll have to go and see what he wants. I don't want to, but I'll have to. I mean, I can't just walk away. I'd like to, but he'd probably start shouting or something, and I don't want that. Bonjour, monsieur. Salut. T'as pas au bal? Hein? Excuse-moi. English? You have money for me? Christ, he's begging. You are hungry, monsieur? Oui, faim. Hungry. I'm very hungry. Understand hungry? Yes. He must be very hungry to have to ask me for money. Either that, or he has no scruples at all. I couldn't do that unless I was absolutely starving. Suppose he's lying, and he just wants it for drink. Rubbing his belly and making a primitive gesture with his fingers as though he were cramming his food into his mouth, he goes on, "Hungry," he says, glaring at me. Oh, well, here you are. I hand him a 10-centime bit. It sits in the palm of his grubby hand. He glares at it, and then at me. "It's not enough." "But I don't have any more." He knows full well I'm lying and spits as I hurry away from him, a frightened rabbit. "Oh, hello. You've met me at an embarrassing moment, hot-tailing it from some down-and-out who's put the fear of God in me by merely asking me for money. You see, I'm not accustomed to such things. It's my first time out in the big wide world. You can probably guess that by the way I'm dressed. The hobnail boots, the patched-up jacket, the baggy trousers, and to crown it all, the most incongruous, outlandish-looking hat of the pork pie variety. Yes, I stick out like a sore thumb in Paris. Look as though I'd be more at home tending a flock of sheep on the downs of my native Wiltshire, not here amongst these wolves of the city. It's April 1972. I'm aged 18 and lanky, gangling, awkward, and green as the first shoot of spring. But despite my appearance, I take myself and my being here quite seriously. You see, I'm looking for something magical, some meaning to life beyond getting a career, making money, and living comfortably ever after. There has to be something more than that. So I'm setting off into the blue to look for it. Getting expelled from Marlborough was the first step. It was anathema to me, being cooped up in those classrooms, conjugating verbs and multiplying meaningless numbers, whilst through the window the summer sun was raging in the woods and the hills. I was wasting my youth, the only one I had, and so I engineered my release and the way opened out before me as I strode through those grand gates for the last time. I'm lucky. I have a place in Paris to lay my head and fill my belly. I've always had a place to do those things. I don't know what it is to struggle for one's daily upkeep. The product of a well-off family and public school, I have absolutely no idea. I haven't missed many meals in my life, and I haven't an inkling of what it means to be hungry. I mean, really hungry. A little peckish, perhaps. I have a brother living in Paris. His name's Ashley, and he lives with his girlfriend, Ines. They live in a cramped room in a studio over a courtyard on a street called Bézu, off Alésia. Being artists, they are struggling to keep body and soul together and to keep the rent paid too. But there's never a night when the table's not laden with food, our glasses not brimming with wine. It's an open house to all manner of bohemian types who turn up with bottles and grub and turn the air thick and blue with the smoke of Gauloise. Amongst them are painters, writers, musicians, all kinds of people. As for me, newly arrived at this table, I fancy myself a poet, but in the eyes of others am but a gawky boy from the countryside with a naive, in fact ridiculous grin, puffing at a pipe and sporting a pork pie hat, which in the evenings hangs on a peg behind the door, slowly getting cured by the smoke. So I'm lucky to have this refuge after a day's peregrinations in the streets. I recount to my hosts the little incidents of my forays as we sit in the early evening over a bottle of wine, cheap rot-gut wine, for which I am acquiring a taste. They laugh at my reactions to this most brazen of cities. I confess to them that I could easily be led astray. Like the night I'd returned late. I hadn't really been sitting at a cafe reading a book. That was a lie. My tongue is loosening up with the wine, and I begin to tell them what really happened. I'd been up at the Sacré-Cœur watching the sun set over the Paris, and the lights going on all over the city. I suddenly thought about the time and realized it must be getting on. I'd find the nearest metro station and come straight back here. I descended the hill and found myself in a street full of bars with women in the doorways. They didn't have much clothing on. In fact, some of them were so scantily dressed that at first glance they seemed to be naked. I'd have to have a second glance to verify that they weren't, but really I was trying not to look at them at all, but I was feeling a hot flush like a fever, and when one of them beckoned me, I felt that I was losing all control of myself, and I said, bonsoir, madame, to her. She smiled and said, tu veux? Tu viens? I told her the first thing which came into my head, that I wanted a glass of milk. You know how I used to drink milk in the evenings before I discovered this stuff. I mean, wine. I raise my glass and take a glug. Du lait, she said, astonished. You want some milk? And then, what to my alarm did she do but to pull her breast from her blouse? She pulled it right out, on the street. It wobbled before me, and I trembled violently. I have milk. Come. And hypnotized, I followed her inside where music played seductively on the jukebox, and all kinds of men were at the bar, their hands over the sirens that languished there. She led me through to the far end of the saloon and into a curtained cubicle with a small table. "Go on," says Ashley and Innes excitedly as I pause, anxious that I've gone too far. This wine. I'm already ashamed enough when I think about it to myself, but now I'm telling them. Oh, this wine, it makes me lose command of my tongue. Go on, go on. Well, we sat down opposite each other and she said we'd drink champagne now. Champagne? It costs a fortune, and I realised that it would be me paying for it. No, I said, alarmed. I just wanted hot milk. She took her breasts out and put them on the table. I was in a fever of fear and desire now. "We'll drink milk with the champagne," she purred. The curtain was drawn aside, and a waiter appeared with a bottle of champagne on ice. No, I cried as he began to open it. No, I cried, panic-stricken. And then another man appeared at the opening in the curtain, a big fellow with a rough-looking face and scars all over it. "Is there a problem here?" I don't want the champagne. I only wanted to drink some hot milk," I stammered, my voice trembling. At which the man, turning towards me with a full glare and a sudden burst of laughter, roared, "Ho, ho, mon cher ami, tu veux du lait chaud, du lait chaud, viens avec moi." And he led me out of the cubicle and away from the woman whose face had turned as sour as milk, and up to the bar where he gave me a glass of milk on the house. They love this story, my hosts, and to my embarrassment repeat the whole thing to the assembled guests at supper the following night. Oh well, I reckon everything's healthier and has more chance of healing when it's put out in the open, when all those dark recesses of oneself are exposed to the light. In fact, when one really begins to live the life that is waiting out there, go through it all and come out the other side if you can. After all, Villon was able to say, "This is my kingdom. I have swallowed my shame." "But what has brought you here again?" you exclaim, as you espy me descending the steps of the Sacré-Cœur and turning down the very same street in which the scenario which scared the pants off me took place the other evening. And this time you have the money on you for that bottle of champagne. And now you see exactly what's coming next. The cunning-faced fellow who's been drinking in the bars down here all day and has spent his dough is making his way up the street that I'm on the way down. Our paths are about to cross, and he's going to engage me in conversation. You are, you tell me, going to have to be on your toes. "Mon ami." Here we go. He's greeted you. How can you not return his greeting without being thoroughly impolite? He's small and wiry, and on the side of his face, lit up by the lights of a bar, I see a scar which runs from his mouth to his ear. This alarms you. You think he must be a cutthroat. You haven't yet been given that invaluable bit of advice the gypsies will one day give you. Don't be afraid of the geezer with the scars on his face. but watch out for the